Admiral John Peterson watched the stars from the bridge of the TSF Relentless. The massive ship slowed down as it approached Nexus Station. This was not a friendly visit. The Galactic Council had called them here with a message that sounded like a threat. 3 minutes until we dock, sir, said Commander Lisa Wright. She stood next to him, her face showing the same worry he felt. Thank you, Commander, Peterson replied. He straightened his dark blue uniform. Is our team ready? Yes, sir. Our lawyers and diplomats are prepared for anything. Peterson nodded, but didn't feel as confident as he tried to appear. Humans had only been part of the galactic community for 50 years. In that time, they had grown faster than anyone expected. The older alien races didn't like that. The Terran Empire now had colonies on 23 planets across 17 star systems. Earth ships were getting better and faster every year. The aliens were scared, and scared people often made bad choices. Docking complete, announced the ship's computer. Nexus Station atmosphere is compatible with human breathing. Peterson took a deep breath. Let's go see what they want. Nexus Station was huge. Its curved halls were filled with creatures from 100 worlds. Some looked almost human. Others were so strange that Peterson couldn't guess which end was the head. The air smelled like spices and something else he couldn't name. 4, armed, guards met them at the dock. They were Dracosians, tall reptilian beings with scales that shifted colors to match their mood. Right now they were a dull orange, cautious but not hostile. The council awaits, said the lead guard. His voice came through a translator as flat and emotionless. Peterson and his team of 5 followed the guards through the station. Aliens moved out of their way, some staring with open curiosity, others with clear dislike. They don't seem happy to see us, whispered Sam Bennett, one of the human diplomats. When are they ever? Replied Peterson. The council chamber was a large round room with 7 raised platforms arranged in a half circle. Each platform held a representative from one of the founding races of the Galactic Council. The human delegation stood in the center, looking up at them like students before strict teachers. High Counselor Zex Talon spoke first. He was an Arctarian, nearly 7 feet tall with skin that shifted colors like oil on water. His forearms moved in graceful patterns as he spoke. The Galactic Council acknowledges the delegation from Earth, he said. His voice was smooth but cold. We have called you here on a matter of great importance. Peterson bowed slightly. The Terran Empire is listening, High Counselor. Zex Talon's skin darkened. That is the first issue we must address. Your people refer to themselves as an empire. This suggests intentions that concern the Council. It's just a name, Peterson said. Earth is united under one government that represents all humans. Empire is simply the term we chose. Yet you behave as conquerors, said another council member, a Volian named Krez. Volians looked almost human except for their purple skin and 4 small horns on their foreheads. 17 systems colonized in just 10 Earth years. Military ships that grow more advanced with each passing season. Weapons research that exceeds what is necessary for defense. Peterson kept his face calm even as anger rose inside him. We explore and settle empty systems that no one claimed. Our military exists to protect our people. Would you have us travel the stars undefended? Your growth is too rapid, said Zex's Talon. It disrupts the balance that has kept peace in this sector for 3,000 years. The Nebulan representative spoke next. Nebulans were cloud-like beings that changed shape as they talked. Perhaps the humans simply wish to catch up to the rest of us. They are young, after all. Young and dangerous, said Krez. We all remember Earth's history. They fought wars among themselves for most of their recorded time. Violence is in their nature. Peterson stepped forward. With respect, Counselor, all species have violent chapters in their past. We learned from ours. United Earth has known peace for over a century. Internal peace, corrected Zexa Talon. But how will you behave when truly challenged? That is what concerns us. The Dracosian Counselor, Mouth Rix, leaned forward. His scales were a deep blue, showing serious thought. Let us move to the purpose of this meeting. The Council has deliberated and reached a decision. Peterson felt a chill. The Council rarely made decisions about independent worlds unless they were imposing sanctions or restrictions. Zex's talon gestured, and a holographic document appeared in front of Peterson. The Council hereby issues the following requirements to the Terran government. Peterson read quickly, his heart sinking with each line. The document demanded that humans stop all military shipbuilding for the next 20 years, dismantle 40% of their current fleet, share all weapons technology with the Council, accept Council observers on all human worlds, limit new colonies to 1 per decade. This is not a request, Zex Talon said. It is a requirement for Earth to remain in good standing with the galactic community. This is an ultimatum, Peterson said, not hiding his anger now. You're treating us like children who need to be controlled. We are treating you like what you are, a young species that has advanced too quickly for your own good, Krez said. Your kind is barely out of its planetary cradle. You need guidance. Commander Wright stepped closer to Peterson and whispered, They can't enforce this without starting a war. They're bluffing. Peterson wasn't so sure. The Council controlled trade routes and had alliances with hundreds of worlds. They could hurt Earth badly without firing a shot. How long do we have to consider this? Peterson asked. 14 solar cycles, said Zex Talon. After that, if you have not agreed to these terms, the Council will impose sanctions that will isolate your worlds from all Council trade and assistance. Peterson looked at each Council member slowly. The Arctarians and Volians seemed pleased. The Dracosians and Nebulans looked uncomfortable. The other 3 races were harder to read. I will bring your requirements to my government, Peterson said carefully. But I must tell you now that Earth does not respond well to threats. It is not a threat, said Zex Talon. It is the reality you must accept. The galaxy has existed in harmony for thousands of years. We will not let human aggression disrupt that peace. Peterson bowed stiffly. We will provide our answer within your time frame. As they left the chamber, Commander Wright walked close beside him. They don't understand us at all, do they, sir? Peterson shook his head. No, Commander, and that's going to be their biggest mistake. Back on the Relentless, Peterson called an emergency meeting with his staff. We need to get this information to Earth immediately. President Morgan needs to see it right away. As the ship pulled away from Nexus Station and prepared to jump to faster-than-light speed, Peterson looked once more at the stars. Humanity had reached for them for thousands of years. Now that they had finally grasped them, no one was going to take them away. Set course for Earth, he ordered. Maximum speed. The TSF Relentless reached Earth in record time. Admiral Peterson had ordered the engines pushed beyond normal limits. Every hour mattered now. As soon as they entered Earth orbit, Peterson sent the Council's ultimatum to President Olivia Morgan. 6 hours later, he stood in the White House War Room with 20 of Earth's most powerful leaders. President Morgan sat at the head of the large round table. She was a tall woman with short gray hair and eyes that missed nothing. She had led Earth through 10 years of rapid growth among the stars. So the Council wants us to roll over and show our belly, she said after Peterson finished his report. They want us to give up everything we've built. Yes, Madam President, Peterson said. They claim it's about maintaining peace, but it's really about control. Defense Secretary Kevin Garcia slammed his fist on the table. This is outrageous. They're treating us like we're some primitive species. We've done nothing wrong. Except grow too fast for their comfort, said Dr. Susan Bell. She was Earth's top expert on alien cultures. The older species fear change. Some of them haven't developed new technology in centuries. Then humans show up and advance more in 50 years than they did in 1,000. Vice President Eric Foster looked worried. Can they enforce these demands? What kind of sanctions could they really impose? Admiral Peterson showed a map of trade routes across the galaxy. They control most major space lanes. They could cut us off from 90% of interstellar trade. They could also encourage other worlds not to deal with us. That would hurt, said the Commerce Minister. But we're largely self-sufficient now. We have enough colonies to provide what we need, President. Morgan stood up and walked to the window. From there, she could see the sprawling city of New Washington and, in the distance, The massive space elevator that connected Earth to its orbital shipyards. What about military action? She asked. Could they attack us directly? Peterson brought up new images showing alien fleets. They outnumber us about 5-1 in ships, but most of their vessels are old designs. They haven't fought a real war in over 1,000 years. We're smaller, but our technology is newer and our crews are better trained. The room fell silent as everyone considered what a war with the Galactic Council would mean. Even if Earth could win, millions might die. There's something else to consider, said Dr. Bell. Our intelligence suggests the Council is divided. The Arctarians and Volians are pushing this agenda, but the Dracosians and Nebulan Collective are more cautious. I believe this ultimatum is partly a bluff. President Morgan turned back to face the room. So what are our options? We could comply, at least in part, suggested one minister. Maybe agree to slow our expansion but reject the military restrictions. That shows weakness, Garcia said. Give them an inch, and they'll take a light year. We could simply ignore the ultimatum, said another advisor. Continue as we are and see if they actually impose sanctions. That's too passive, Peterson said. We need to respond directly to show we won't be intimidated. President Morgan nodded slowly. I agree. Admiral, what would you recommend? Peterson stood straighter. A show of strength, Madam President. Not aggression, but a clear message that we won't be pushed around. We should increase our patrol presence near our border systems. And we should speed up Project Aegis. Project Aegis was Earth's newest defense system. It used quantum technology to create shields more powerful than anything seen before in the galaxy. Can we get Aegis ready in 2 weeks? Morgan asked. The main system for Earth? No, Peterson admitted. But we could deploy the smaller versions to our frontier colonies, especially the ones most likely to be targeted if the Council decides to apply pressure. Morgan walked around the table slowly, thinking. We need to consider all angles. If we reject their demands completely, we risk conflict. If we give in, we lose our independence and maybe our future. The room stayed quiet, as she thought. Finally, she stopped and looked at them all. Here's what we're going to do. Admiral Peterson will return to Nexus Station with our official response. We will not surrender a single ship or colony. Instead, we will offer the Council an alternative, recognition of the Terran Empire as an equal power, with all the rights and privileges that entails. They'll never agree to that, said Foster. Probably not, Morgan said, but it puts them in the position of refusing a reasonable offer. Meanwhile, we accelerate all defensive preparations, move Project Aegis to our frontier worlds, call up our reserve fleet, and quietly position ships near critical Council systems. You want to threaten them back? Asked Dr. Bell. I want them to understand that threats work both ways, Morgan replied. The Council thinks we're children playing with dangerous toys. They need to see that we're adults who understand exactly what's at stake. She turned to Admiral Peterson. John, prepare your ship to return to Nexus Station. I'm coming with you. The key. Room erupted in protest. Madam President, that's too dangerous, said her security chief. No Earth leader has ever gone to Nexus Station, added Foster. Morgan held up her hand for silence. Exactly. No human leader has ever addressed the Council directly. They send their demands down to us as if we're beneath them. It's time they looked us in the eye as equals. Peterson smiled slightly. That will certainly get their attention, Madam President. Good, said Morgan. Because I want them paying very close attention to what happens next. 2 days later, the TSF Relentless departed Earth orbit again. This time it carried not just Admiral Peterson but President Morgan and a full diplomatic team. As they prepared to jump to faster than light speed, Peterson found the president on the observation deck looking back at the blue-green planet below. Having second thoughts? He asked. Morgan shook her head. No. Just remembering something my grandmother told me when I was young. She said humans were meant for the stars, that we'd never be satisfied until we could touch them. Wise woman, Peterson said. She also said that once humans set their mind on something, heaven help anyone who tries to stop them. Morgan turned away from Earth and looked ahead, toward the stars that would soon blur into streaks of light. Let's go show the Council what that means. The Relentless jumped, leaving Earth behind in a flash of light. The journey to answer the Council's ultimatum had begun. The news of the Council's ultimatum spread quickly through human space. Earth's government tried to keep it quiet, but rumors always found a way to travel. Within 3 days, every colony knew something big was happening. In orbit around Luna, Earth's moon, the largest shipyard in the Terran Empire, worked at full speed. Major Diane Powell stood by a large window, watching hundreds of workers move across the skeleton of a new ship. This wasn't just any ship. This was the first vessel equipped with the full Aegis defense system. "How are we doing on time?" Powell asked. Chief Engineer Alan Bennett looked up from his tablet. "We're pushing the schedule hard, Major. 3 shifts, working around the clock, but we're still 2 weeks behind where we need to be." Powell frowned. "That's not good enough. The President is on her way to Nexus Station right now. If the Council rejects our offer, we need to be ready." "My teams are doing everything they can," Bennett said. "The quantum matrix is tricky. Rush it too much, and the whole system could fail when we need it most." Powell nodded. She knew Bennett was right. The Aegis system wasn't just a shield. It was something entirely new. It could absorb enemy weapons fire and then redirect that energy back at the attacker. If it worked, it would change everything about space combat. "What about the smaller systems for the frontier colonies?" she asked. Bennett brought up a new image on his tablet. "Those are on schedule. The first units shipped out yesterday to New Hope. Colonel Brooks should have them installed within 3 days." "Good. At least our most exposed colony will have some protection." Powell looked back at the half-built ship. "Push harder on this one, Alan. I have a feeling we're going to need it sooner than anyone thinks." Far from Earth, on the frontier, world called New Hope, Colonel Ryan Brooks watched a large crate being unloaded from a transport ship. The crate held one of the new Aegis defense units. It didn't look like much, just a metal box about the size of a small car. But inside was technology that might save this colony if the worst happened. "Where do you want it, sir?" asked Sergeant Joe Miller. "Take it to the main defense bunker," Brooks said, "and make sure no one talks about what's inside. As far as anyone knows, it's just regular shield equipment." "Yes, sir," Miller said. "What about the evacuation? We've got nearly 3,000 civilians waiting for transport." Brooks looked across the landing field where hundreds of people stood in lines, waiting to board the ships that would take them to safer worlds deeper in human space. "Keep loading them," he said. "Priority to children and medical cases, but make it clear this is a precaution, not a panic. I don't want rumors spreading that we're abandoning New Hope." Lieutenant Amy Barnes approached with a worried look. "Sir, long-range scanners just picked up something. There's unusual activity at the Volian outpost in the next system." "What kind of activity?" Brooks asked. "Ships gathering. More than normal. At least 6 warships so far." Brooks nodded slowly. The Volians were the most aggressive species on the Council. If anyone was going to make a move against human colonies, it would be them. "Speed up the evacuation," he ordered, "but keep it quiet. And get those Aegis units installed immediately. If the Volians are planning something, I want to be ready for them." Back on the TSF Relentless, President Morgan sat in Admiral Peterson's office, reviewing their strategy for the Council meeting. "They'll be shocked to see you," Peterson said. "No human leader has ever appeared before the full Council." "Good," Morgan replied. "I want them off balance." "The Arctarians and Volians will be hostile," Peterson warned. "They're the ones pushing hardest against us. The Dracosians and Nebulans might be more open to negotiation." Morgan studied the profiles of each council member. "And the other 3 races?" "The Zentari are traitors. They care about profit, not politics. The Melosians are scientists. They might actually admire our technical progress. And the Jixari are spiritual. They tend to take the long view of everything." "So we have potential allies," Morgan said. "We need to appeal to their self-interest. Make them see that treating humans as equals benefits everyone." Peterson nodded. "And if that doesn't work?" Morgan's face hardened. "Then we show them we won't be pushed around. Defense Secretary Garcia has already deployed our reserve fleet. We have ships near every major council world, not close enough to be a threat, but close enough to make a point. They'll see that as provocative, Peterson warned. It's meant to be, Morgan said. I want them to understand that their ultimatum has consequences. We didn't start this, John, but we will finish it if we have to. Their conversation was interrupted by Commander Wright. Admiral, Madam President, we're approaching Nexus Station. They've detected us and are demanding to know why the President of Earth is aboard. Morgan smiled. Tell them I'm coming to deliver our response in person. Let's see how they handle that. As the Relentless docked at Nexus Station, news of the human president's arrival spread quickly. Crowds of aliens gathered to watch as Morgan and her team disembarked. Many had never seen a human before except in images. They're staring, whispered one of Morgan's aides. Let them, she replied. It's time they saw that humans aren't just some abstract problem to be managed. We're real, and we're here to stay. The Dracosian Guard seemed unsure how to treat a human head of state. They had been prepared for Admiral Peterson, not President Morgan. After some confusion, they escorted the human delegation toward the council chamber. As they walked, Morgan noticed something interesting. The aliens they passed didn't all seem hostile. Some looked curious, even friendly. One small childlike being with blue fur actually waved at her. Morgan waved back, earning a smile. Not everyone here sees us as a threat, she said quietly to Peterson. No, he agreed. The Council doesn't speak for all aliens, just as we don't speak for all humans. That's something to remember. When they reached the Council chamber, the guards asked them to wait outside. Inside, the Council members were arguing about whether to allow the human president to address them directly. This is unprecedented, they heard one voice say. She has no right to demand our attention, said another, which Peterson recognized as Krez the Volian. Yet she is here, said a third voice, calmer than the others, and refusing to hear her would make us appear afraid. After several minutes, the doors opened. A Zentari official, his insect-like features unreadable, bowed slightly. The Council will receive President Morgan of Earth, he announced. You may enter. Morgan straightened her jacket and nodded to her team. Remember, she said quietly, we are not asking for permission to exist. We are offering them a chance to accept us as equals. With her head held high, President Morgan walked into the chamber to face the beings who thought they could decide humanity's future. She was about to show them how wrong they were. President Morgan walked into the council chamber with Admiral Peterson and their small team behind her. The 7 council members looked down from their high seats, clearly surprised by her presence. Morgan noticed some of them leaning forward to get a better look at the first human leader to ever enter this room. The council recognizes Olivia Morgan, president of the Terran Empire, said Zexa Talon, his voice less confident than before. This is most unusual. These are unusual times, Morgan replied calmly. When you send an ultimatum to my people, I believe it deserves a personal response. The Volian representative, Krez, made a dismissive gesture. Your presence changes nothing. The Council's requirements remain. Have you come to accept them? Morgan smiled slightly. No, Counselor. I've come to reject them completely and to offer an alternative path forward. Murmurs spread among the Council members. The Nebulan representative shifted form, showing surprise or perhaps interest. You are not in a position to offer alternatives, said Zex Talon. The Council has decided. The Council has overreached, Morgan countered. Earth and its colonies are independent. We are not subject to your authority. You exist in our galaxy, Krez said. You use trade routes established over thousands of years. You benefit from the peace we maintain. A peace based on stagnation, Morgan said. She moved to the center of the room and activated a holographic display she had brought. It showed the technological advances humans had made since joining the galactic community. In 50 years, we've developed faster ships, more efficient energy systems, and medical treatments that benefit many species, not just humans. We've done this not to threaten anyone, but because it's in our nature to improve, to grow, to reach for more than we have. The Dracosian representative, Malthrix, leaned forward. Your growth is precisely what concerns us. Rapid change can be destabilizing. Or it can lift everyone, Morgan replied. Which brings me to my proposal. She changed the holographic display to show a new organizational structure, different from the current council system. We propose the formation of a galactic federation, not a hierarchy where older species dictate to younger ones, but a true partnership where all have equal voice and equal rights. Absurd, said Krez. You would place yourself barely out of your planetary cradle, on the same level as civilizations that have existed for thousands of years? Age doesn't always equal wisdom, Morgan said. Sometimes it just equals complacency. Before the council could respond, an alarm sounded. A Zentari aide rushed in and whispered urgently to their representative. What is happening? Demanded Zexitalan. The Zentari representative looked troubled. We have reports of an attack on the human colony called New Hope. Volian warships have engaged the planet's defenses. All eyes turned to Krez, who seemed as surprised as anyone. I gave no such order, he insisted. Morgan turned to Admiral Peterson, who was already checking his communications device. Confirm, he said grimly. New Hope is under attack. 6 Volian warships opened fire 10 minutes ago. Morgan faced the council, her expression hard. It seems some of you decided to enforce your ultimatum early. The council did not authorize this, said Malthrix, his scales turning a dark red color that indicated anger. Then who did? Morgan demanded. While the council argued among themselves, Peterson received another message. His face changed as he read it, and he whispered to Morgan, Madam President, you need to see this. Morgan read the update and then looked back at the council with a small smile. It appears the situation has changed. Perhaps we should wait for a full report before continuing. On the frontier world of New Hope, Colonel Brooks watched from his command center as the Volian attack unfolded. 6 warships had appeared without warning and immediately opened fire on the colony. Aegis shields holding at 98%, reported Lieutenant Barnes. They don't seem to realize their weapons aren't getting through. Brooks nodded calmly. Let them waste their energy. Are all civilians in the shelters? Yes, sir. The last transport got away before they arrived. Only military personnel remain on the surface. The Volian ships continued their bombardment, firing their main weapons at full power. But the invisible Aegis shield absorbed everything, growing stronger with each hit. Sir, they're moving into a new attack formation, said Sergeant Miller. Looks like they're preparing to land troops. Perfect, Brooks said. That's what we wanted. Wait until all 6 ships are inside the upper atmosphere. The Volian ships descended, clearly believing their attack had weakened the colony's defenses. As they entered the atmosphere, Brooks gave the order they had been waiting for. Activate. Aegis Counter Protocol. Lieutenant Barnes pressed a series of commands into her console. The energy that had been absorbed from the Volian attacks was suddenly released back at the attacking ships, in a precise, controlled manner. On his flagship, Admiral Lorex of the Volian fleet watched in confusion as his sensors showed impossible energy readings. What is happening? He demanded. Unknown, sir, his science officer replied. Some kind of energy reflection. Our weapons fire is coming back at us? Before they could react, the redirected energy struck the Volian ships. It didn't destroy them, that wasn't the plan. Instead, it targeted their engines and weapon systems with surgical precision. All ships report status, Lorex called. The reports came in quickly. 4 of his 6 ships had lost all power to their main engines. 3 had weapon systems failures. None were destroyed, but none could continue fighting either. This is impossible, Lorex said. Their defenses were supposed to be basic shields, nothing more. His tactical officer looked up from her screen. Sir, we're receiving a message from the colony. Colonel Brooks appeared on their view screen. Volian vessels, this is Colonel Ryan Brooks of the Terran Defense Force. Your unprovoked attack has failed. Your ships are disabled but not destroyed. We could have eliminated your entire fleet, but that is not our way. Withdraw now and we will allow you to leave our system. Lorex stared at the human in shock. This small colony had just defeated his attack force without firing a single conventional weapon. The humans had technology the Volians had never seen before. "Sir, we have no choice," his second-in-command said quietly. "We must retreat." With his pride severely wounded, Lorex gave the order to withdraw. The Volian ships limped away from Nua, Hope using their auxiliary power systems to escape. Back on Nexus Station, Admiral Peterson received the full report of the battle. He showed it to President Morgan, who turned to address the Council again. "It seems the Volian attack on New Hope has been repelled," she announced. 6 warships were driven off by our new defensive systems. No lives were lost on either side. Krez, the Volian representative, looked stunned. "This is impossible. A frontier colony cannot defeat a Volian battle group." "Yet it did," Morgan said. "And it did so without destroying your ships or killing your people, even though they attacked without warning or provocation." She walked slowly around the council chamber. "This is the Terran Empire you fear so much. We have the power to defend ourselves, but we choose restraint. We seek cooperation, not conquest." The council members looked at each other, clearly shaken by this news. The balance of power they had taken for granted was shifting before their eyes. "Perhaps," said the Nebulan representative slowly, "we should reconsider President Morgan's proposal." Sextalon looked less certain than before. "This matter requires further discussion." Morgan nodded. "Take all the time you need. But understand this. The ultimatum you delivered is rejected. Earth and its colonies will continue to grow and develop, as we see fit. The only question is whether we do so as your adversaries or your allies." As the Council called for a recess to consider this new reality, Morgan and Peterson stepped outside the chamber. "Well played, Madam President," Peterson said quietly. Morgan smiled. "The real credit goes to Colonel Brooks and his team. Perfect timing. And now?" "Now we wait," Morgan said. "They've seen that threats won't work. Let's see if they're wise enough to try friendship instead." The council members argued for hours. President Morgan and Admiral Peterson waited patiently outside the chamber, occasionally receiving updates from Earth and the colonies. The news of the Volian attack on New Hope and its surprising defeat spread quickly through Nexus Station. Many aliens now looked at the humans with new interest and respect. "Do you think they'll agree to our proposal?" Peterson asked quietly. Morgan watched a group of young aliens playing nearby, seemingly unbothered by the historic events unfolding around them. "Some will, some won't. But they need to understand that the old way of doing things is over. Humanity won't be controlled." A Dracosian guard approached them. "The Council is ready to speak with you again," he said, his scales now a peaceful blue color. Morgan and Peterson returned to the Council chamber. The 7 members seemed calmer now, though Krez, the Volian, still looked angry and embarrassed by his fleet's defeat. Zex Talon spoke first. "President Morgan, the Council has discussed your rejection of our requirements and your counter-proposal. We have also reviewed the incident at New Hope." "And?" Morgan asked. "The Volian attack was not authorized by this Council," Zex Talon said firmly. "Councillor Krez has admitted that certain military leaders in his government acted without proper approval." Krez looked down, clearly unhappy to be blamed publicly. The Nebulan representative, a shifting cloud of blue and purple, moved forward. "More importantly, we are impressed by your restraint. Your forces could have destroyed the Volian ships but chose not to. This suggests that perhaps our fears about human aggression were not entirely accurate." Morgan nodded. "Humans can be fierce when threatened, but we prefer peace when possible. We defended ourselves without unnecessary bloodshed." Malth Rix, the Dracosian, spoke next. "Your proposal for a galactic federation is interesting but unprecedented. You ask for equal standing with races that have existed for thousands of years. Age alone doesn't determine value," Morgan replied. "Each civilization has something unique to offer. Humans bring innovation, adaptability, and fresh perspectives. Others bring wisdom, stability, and deep knowledge. Together, we could be stronger than any of us alone." The council members looked at each other. Then the Zentari representative, with his insect-like features, leaned forward. The Zentari Trade Collective finds merit in this approach. New ideas often lead to new profits. We would support exploring this Federation concept. The Malosian representative nodded. The scientific benefits of closer cooperation with humans could be substantial. Their rapid technological development is intriguing. One by one, the council members shared their thoughts. The Jixari, a race of tall, thin beings with 4 arms, spoke of seeing many futures and believing that partnership with humans appeared in the brightest ones. Only Krez and Zexitalan remained opposed, but it was clear that the council was no longer united against humanity. "We propose a compromise," said Mouth Rix. "The ultimatum is withdrawn. Instead, we will form a transitional committee to explore President Morgan's Federation proposal. All races, including humans, will have equal representation on this committee." Morgan looked at Peterson, who gave a small nod. This was more than they had expected to achieve. "The Terran Empire accepts this compromise," Morgan said. "We look forward to working together as equals." Zex Talon didn't look happy, but he was outvoted. "Then it is decided. The transitional committee will begin its work immediately. This council session is concluded." As the meeting ended, many of the alien representatives approached Morgan personally, something that had never happened to a human before. They asked questions about Earth, expressed interest in visiting human colonies, and spoke of new opportunities for trade and scientific exchange. "I think we've started something important here," Peterson said as they walked back to their ship. Morgan nodded. The beginning of a new era, not just for humanity, but for all spacefaring civilizations. When they reached the TSF Relentless, Commander Wright was waiting with more news. "Madam President, we're receiving reports from across human space. Word of the Volian defeat at New Hope has spread everywhere. Our people are celebrating, and we've had messages from 15 independent worlds outside the Council system, all wanting to open direct relations with Earth." Morgan smiled. "It seems our standing in the galaxy has changed overnight. What happens now?" asked Peterson. "Now we build," Morgan said. "We show the galaxy that humans can be good neighbors and strong allies. We move forward with the Federation idea, bringing together those who want a more equal and dynamic future." The Relentless prepared to leave Nexus Station. Morgan stood at the viewport, watching the enormous space station grow smaller as they pulled away. "You know, they only agreed because they're afraid of us now," Peterson said quietly, joining her. "After what happened at New Hope, they realize we're stronger than they thought." "Fear got their attention," Morgan agreed. "But it's hope that will build this alliance. In time, they'll understand that humanity's greatest gift to the galaxy isn't our technology, but our restless spirit. We'll never stop pushing boundaries, and now neither will they." The ship jumped to faster-than-light speed, heading back to Earth. Morgan knew the road ahead wouldn't be easy. Some, like the Arctarians and Volians, would resist change. There might be more conflicts before true peace was established. But for the first time, humans were being treated as equals in the galactic community. 3 months later, Colonel Ryan Brooks stood on a hill overlooking the main settlement on New Hope. The colony had changed since the Volian attack. New buildings had risen. The population had doubled as people from Earth and other worlds moved to this once remote frontier. Most surprising were the visitors. Aliens from a dozen different worlds now walked the streets of New Hope. Some came to trade, others to study, and a few simply out of curiosity about the small colony that had defeated a Volian battle group. "Quite a change," said Lieutenant Barnes, standing beside him. Brooks nodded. "When I took this assignment, New Hope was just a small outpost on the edge of human space. Now it's becoming something more." "A symbol," Barnes said, "of what happens when someone underestimates humans." Brooks smiled. "And of what's possible when we stand our ground but remain open to friendship." In orbit above them, ships from Earth and several alien worlds moved in peaceful patterns. The Aegis defense system was still in place, but it hadn't been needed again. The Volians had not returned, and other potential threats had reconsidered their plans after seeing what happened to the Volian fleet. On Earth, President Morgan addressed the United Planets Congress about the new Galactic Federation that was taking shape. The Council's ultimatum was meant to contain us, to keep humanity small and controlled, she said. Instead, it has led to the greatest opportunity in our history. We are no longer simply one more young species finding our way in an ancient galaxy. We are now recognized as equals, as partners in building a better future for all intelligent life. She looked out at the representatives of all human worlds and colonies. The stars that once seemed so distant are now the roadmap to humanity's future, not as conquerors, but as catalysts for a galactic renaissance. Throughout human space, citizens celebrated not a military victory, but the beginning of a new era, an era where humanity's place among the stars was no longer questioned, but welcomed. The Galactic Council's ultimatum had indeed backfired, but in a way that ultimately benefited everyone. As Morgan finished her speech, she remembered that moment on the Relentless, looking back at Earth. Her grandmother had been right. Humans were meant for the stars, and now, nothing would hold them back.